Monday, July 14th is the Lion Channel. I'm John, day 74 of my manifesting journey. First thing I want to say, Marley, I love you. Brent, I love you. Mindy, I love you. They were already in the lion's den and they told me that they love me. All right. I wanted new people that want to be in the lion's den, who want to make changes. That's for you. And if you want to be in the lion's den, that is now what you have to do. Because even though nobody else did it, I feel like it's such a great idea. Because the only way that your life is going to change is if you can make yourself do things that you really might not want to do, especially at the very beginning. Like if you feel like your world is a shitstorm right now and you're a victim, the only way that you're going to get out of that is to say, you know what? No, I'm not. This guy, John, he's posting videos talking about how his life has changed in a little more than 2 months. I saw his video yesterday. He's talking about all these things that people couldn't change in years, maybe a lifetime. I know people who have had the same issues physically for the last 30 years, and it just continually gets worse and worse. And I'm no spring chicken in terms of what the outside world thinks. I'm 48. Some people would say, if you're in your 20s, you probably think I'm an old man. I'm not no old man. I still got a long ways to go. And when you're falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, and you know that this is the tip of the iceberg, it's only up from here for me and for the people in the lion's den. And that's where you want to be. So just tell me you love me, even if you don't. I know you don't want to do it, but that's the only way you can now get in. That's how you open the door. Otherwise, I'm not going to respond. I just decided that just now. I was outside weeding. That's why that's why I'm dressed differently. I had a legs workout that I did. Didn't really feel like doing that today, but it's my non-negotiable. And, so it gets done. Weeding. Whoever feels like weeding. It's all my non-negotiable. There was thunder out there. It was lightning. I could see it off in the distance. But the weeding wasn't done. So I just ignored it, did what I had to do. And it still hasn't rained. But it was enough to scare you off if you were looking for an excuse. But when it's on your non-negotiables, it's got to get done. Another manifestation, by the way. If you still don't believe that falling asleep in the wish fulfilled works, this is the first credit card that I've ever paid off in my entire life. I told you I had some, I told you where I grew up. All right, this is just old programming from growing up in a low income families, in a low income environment, and not knowing how to handle certain situations like credit cards. I would just charge them up. And speaking of credit cards, all of my credit cards were still maxed out 3 months ago. Guess where all my credit cards are now? 5%. 5% across the board. I just closed 2 accounts that I had recently opened up, paid them off, closed them out. Financial situation is changing. I said that. And I said soon I would be able to show you proof. And now here you go. Paid off a car, paid off a credit card. Next, I'm going to show you my credit jumping 100 points. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for you to fall asleep in the wish fulfilled? It's what I think about every single day. I know my life's going to continue getting better because I know how it all works now. I don't even have to be nice during the day. I could just fall asleep in the wish fulfilled. And I know I'm going to become the person that I want to become, and I'm becoming him. This is me. At the core of me has always been a motivator. Someone who wants to inspire people and light a fire. And I've always had that. And that's probably why I became a personal trainer. And now I'm just taking it to a different level. Now it's a mental personal trainer. And if you allow yourself to believe in what I'm saying the stuff, and now it's happening. On May 2nd, when I came on here and I was saying things are changing, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't believe me. But now I've made videos for 74 days in a row talking about change after change after change, manifestation after manifestation after manifestation, created a community. It's 3 people in the community. It's still a community as far as I'm concerned. Changing, people's lives are changing. It's not an accident. It's because they committed and you haven't. But you can right now. You just say, you know what? I'm done being a crybaby. I'm done being a victim. I'm done saying, woe is me. If you're waiting for somebody to save you, he's here right now. I'm trying to save you from yourself. I was there. It sucks. But you know who saved me? Me. You have to, I can save you. I can tell you how to do it, what I did. But you have to do it. Like David saved me. But he couldn't save me without me making the decision to listen to him. So I listened to him. My life has changed. If you listen to me, your life will change. And it's so simple. Like if somebody would have told me on April 3rd, like I started falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, I was like, let me give this a chance. But if somebody would have told me like, yo, this is all you have to do. Just do this. Like, can you make it simpler? Can it be simpler? Like everyone thinks it's so hard, and I did for almost 48 years to change your life. You got to work hard. You got to, you got to push. You got to, push through obstacles. You got to wake up at 3 a.m. You got to grind. You got to fight. That's not how it is. It's all bullshit. All you have to do is take control of the conscious mind and tell the conscious mind right now, this is what we're doing. I'm in control, not you. I'm in control. Take control of the conscious mind. Decide who you want to become. Fall asleep with that tonight. And as early as tomorrow, your life will change. And then if you want to become a part of the Lion's Den, tell me that you love me. I'll say I love you too. And let's rock. Let's roll. That's the hardest thing you're going to have to do. It's so hard. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to tell some random dude that I love him. That's the point. That's you taking control and not thinking about whether you want to do it or not. You're doing it because you know it's for the greater good. And the greater good is to change your life. I wanted to tell a story of this was when I was in my early 30s, and this was before I met my wife. All right. I was at a rock bottom before I was at, this other rock bottom. So this was a rock bottom mentally, okay, a couple months ago. All right, but I was at a rock bottom like physically. Okay, I was in all kinds of like debt. We're talking like gambling debt. Okay, I owed everybody that I knew, I owed money to. Okay, I owed bookies. I was just like in the worst situation that you could imagine. Just imagine a movie where somebody owes somebody, and then just imagine that guy just owing everybody that they know. All right. So the only thing that and I was making things worse for everybody. I had people, I was living at my parents' house, and I had people looking for me. They would knock on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was DJing then. I had people coming up to where I was DJing, trying to chase me down for money. And because I was dragging everybody else into it, I didn't want to, obviously. You never want to do this kind of stuff. But that's who I was. And the only way that I could get out of it, so to speak, and not have my family involved was to just leave. And so I left in the middle of the night. I wrote a note, left my cell phone, everything. Okay, and I started hitchhiking. So this was like back in 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. It was like right before Christmas too. It was like, I think it was like December 21st. And so I was hitchhiking. I gotten a few cars. I was trying to get to Texas because it was warmer there. All right. I live in the Philadelphia area, so it was like freezing here. And I was just trying to get to Texas because, doesn't matter why, but I was trying to get there. And I got like 3 or 4 cars. A couple had some run-ins in some crazy situations where it's amazing that I'm still here. And while I was out there, okay, I made it to Texas, and I found out, and I remember being in this train station. Okay, I was just walking around the streets, just, I'd been out for like a week. Like I looked homeless. I was homeless, and I looked homeless, but I wasn't homeless. I was homeless because I chose to be homeless. I still had a home back at home, but that was just a bad situation. And so I was just trying to figure stuff out. And I remember sitting in a train station, and there was a little girl walking by with her mom, and I was sitting there against the wall. And it was probably the lowest point of my life, but it was like a wake up. All right. And the mom pulled the little girl. The little girl was kind of walking towards me, but she was like 10 feet from me. And the mom grabbed her and like pulled her close because of the way I looked. And I was like, wow. And I'll always remember that moment. But I was waiting by a payphone. I just called because I was at the end. I had, pretty much no hope. I had just called like a shelter, and they had no room. And so I was hungry. I was on the, really didn't have anything else to do. So I called home, I had 1 quarter left, and I called home, and it was a quarter that somebody had given me, and they were like, I was in Atlanta at the time, and this was like around the projects in Atlanta, and it was like somebody, you know, who gave me a quarter, and I was expecting them kind of to like pull out a gun, and they wound up pulling out a quarter and giving me a quarter. And so I had this quarter, and I used it, and I left a message, and I said, told them I was in a bad spot. And so, but they didn't answer, and I was out. So I was sitting around the payphones. The phone rang, and somebody walked by and picked it up, and they were looking around, and they looked at me and they said, "Are you John?" And I hopped up, and it was my dad. And I figured things out. I wound up having an aunt that lived in San Antonio. So I went there. My dad sent me, some money, and so I was living at my aunt's for a couple months. This is all going to come together, okay? You're probably like, where are you going with this? But just if you're with me so far, hang around, because it's totally worth it. All right. So I was at my aunt's, and at this time I was into Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction. This is before I left. And so I was like meditating and stuff, and I was at my aunt's, and I kind of had like, I was trying to get work down there, and I wound up being like a security guard at like a bar where she knew somebody. I did that for like, but I wasn't really like trying to stay out there. I was just trying to figure shit out for myself. And so in the afternoon, I would sit outside and just feel the sun, and I'd be like meditating and stuff. And I was, even though I was in this kind of like horrible situation where most people would be beating themselves up, I was enjoying the process. And I remember each night I would fall asleep like feeling good, like everything's going to work out. I know everything's going to work out. And so when actually I just lost my train of thought for a second, but um one day I was meditating, and the thought came to me, and it was personal training. I'd been in the fitness. Even when I was in my aunt's house, I was doing like pull ups in places where there was no like pull up bar. I was just using like house equipment to do pull ups. And so I was like, okay, personal training. The idea came to me. It just felt like my calling, like something I needed to do. And so I called everybody that I knew, and it was a hard thing to do when you're calling people that you owe money, and you still don't have the money, and you're saying I'm coming back, and you had already made arrangements before to pay them and you didn't. So now it's a tough conversation, like, hey, I promised this time, like, kind of thing. Like, why would they believe me? But so I had to call a bunch of people and just straighten things out. And so when I came back, it was just me by myself. And I started personal training. I was driving my mom's car. I didn't even have a car. I was driving my mom's car around, and I just started like posting pictures on Facebook. But none of this mattered because I was falling asleep, and I knew that it was all going to work out. I just knew it. Okay, so everything that I had to go through, I was still falling asleep, knowing that everything was going to be golden. And then so my personal training business, people started seeing the results that I was getting for people. I was really active, and it just grew. And I moved into a place with my brother and sister, and I used the garage as a gym, and I had people coming, and I met my wife, and everything was fantastic. Okay, I was solely focused on myself. Everything now at that point, it's easy, right? It's easy to think those good thoughts. And this is all coming back to the wish fulfilled. That's why I keep stressing that even though my circumstances were what they were, I was still falling asleep. I still felt good about the situation, that I was going to turn it around, that I was going to figure it out. And I did. And then I met my wife. Business was great. And here is what happened. Okay. My wife had 2 kids from a previous marriage. I really didn't even want to get married. When I met her, I told her, I was like, I'm never getting married. And, I don't want kids. But we were in love, things changed. And so we wound up getting married. And now we have a daughter together. But the reason why it has been kind of a struggle and everything has kind of changed, and the reason why I was where I was on April 3rd is because I started getting stressed out. I started thinking about supporting her and supporting her kids. And so my dominant thoughts that I was falling asleep with, my dominant feelings, instead of confidence, and I know this is going to work, and everything's getting better and better, and I just got my new sports car, and now everything changed to now they didn't have to change to this, but I was thinking, now I have 3 people that I have to take care of. And so my thoughts, the energy, the feeling that I started falling asleep with changed. And even though her and I have been in love the whole time, and our marriage has been, we love each other, there has always, always, always been some kind of drama between me and her and finances, between me and her family, between me and her and my family. And you might think to yourself, oh, this is typical. People don't, for the most part, where I grew up, people don't really love their in-laws, and these are just normal situations. But my whole point of all of this is that all of that had been since before we got married is now completely changed. And that was almost 11 years. And it's all because of the wish fulfilled. That's the whole point that I wanted to make. So no matter where you are right now, I have been at the bottom. Not only 3 months ago, but I was at the bottom before. I was able to come up before, but I didn't realize how I came up, really. I was doing all kinds of different stuff, listening to different people. But had I known that it was just as easy as falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, and no matter what I was adding to my life, a wife and, 2 stepchildren, that as long as I keep my energy up and keep feeling confident and, just thinking great things, all that's just going to keep coming to me. And we wouldn't have had the struggle at all the last 11 years. There would have been no struggles. I can't. Matter of fact, I can't imagine where we would be. Well, I can imagine, I guess, but I would be light years past where I am now. Like this is just like I said, day 74 of making videos. So I don't know. I just felt like I would share that, um, and just give you some more motivation or inspiration to try and get your ass in gear if you haven't fell asleep in the wish fulfilled, because anyone can do it. We're all from the same cloth. So just do it. All right. That's it for today. I love you all. You want in on the Lion's Den? Gotta tell me you love me. All right. I love you all. Have a great night. I'm going to have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow, day 75.